brought this item to the agenda. I'm sorry, let me be back. I'm sorry, Ted. I just seen you there, Ted. We're gonna let you go first so you can get your speech out of the way. So Ted Grease, how you doing?
Good, thanks, Tony.
No, I'm sorry about that, Rita. We'll come to you next.
Hi, Ted.
Hi, Barbara. No worries.
All right, Ted, thanks for coming.
No problem. I just have a quick update from the Conservation Advisory Council. More for next month for you all, but we submitted a draft resolution to Council President Schott in support of the New York, New Jersey Watershed Protection Act, which is a federal act right now that a lot of municipalities in New York and New Jersey are advocating for, and basically will establish the New York, New Jersey Watershed Restoration Program and unlock a lot of funding to protect and enhance the Hudson River estuary system. So more information on that next month. It's with Council President now, and I think it will probably be assigned to this committee and then go to Common Council. It's my understanding. And that's really all I have for you all today.
So that's gonna come next month, you said?
Yes, to the May meeting.
Yes.
All right.
Not yet, no.
Yeah. All righty. Any questions for Ted? No? All right. Thank you, Ted. Speak to
No
you next
problem.
month.
Thank you. Have a great evening.
You too. All righty. Now, back to the new business on the agenda. Back to parking on Prospect Street. Alderwoman Worthington brought that to the committee.
Thank you, Tony. Hi, everybody.
Oh, here it is.
Okay, so just a little bit of the backstory. A constituent called me a little over a month ago or so about parking tickets that she and her company had been receiving because they were not switching their cars over to the other side by the time required. And so she requested that maybe the time be changed. I think it's 8 a.m. right now that the cars have to be moved to the other side of the street. And she is requesting that maybe we can move it to 10 a.m. I believe what happens is that she has family members sometimes come up who spend the night and then they can't, they're not getting their cars over to the other side. And I thought that it wasn't unreasonable as Prospect Street is already a one-way street, at least from Cedar Street down to St. James Street. And I think that this has been done on other city streets where they've actually moved the time later to change it over. So I sent it in, hoping that, I think I sent it through the app and hoping that the city engineer or someone had taken a look at it to see if something like this can be done.
We have the city engineer here.
Oh, hi, John. I'm sorry. The screen picture for the conference room is kind of small on my screen, so I can't see everyone that's in there. But my apologies. So what do you think, John?
So there does appear to be a variety of times in the city code. I didn't do a detailed search of that, but they're not necessarily standardized around the city. So that's one thing we notice. But I know Ed has opinions too about the need to produce a large amount of signage if this was to be standardized across the city.
Well, the request, if I could just clarify, is just for Prospect Street.
Just for Prospect.
Just for Prospect,
Right.
not a citywide change, because that would be a whole other conversation.
Right. I only mentioned that other streets had this done is because, just to give an example, that this has been done before.
Okay. Right. Any input?
Other than before we standardize it throughout the city, keep in mind that DPW hours are 7 to 3. So when that move happens, our is established due to work. The DPW.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't catch everything you said, Ed.
Yeah, I'm getting feedback on this side.
Yeah. No,
Oh, your voice, that's weird.
yeah.
So I think a lot of that was done due to the fact that the city DPW work hours are 7 to 3. So, you know, if we wait till 10 or 9 or whatever, you know, that kind of hinders our ability to do some work. But, you know, if we go to the citywide, I think that was the
Right.
problem with that.
Did you hear him,
For
Rita?
Prospect Street, I don't have.
I did, but if we're keeping it solely to Prospect Street for right now,
Right, correct. I don't have any issue with Prospect Street.
okay.
Yeah. So,
Can I,
yeah.
is it, Rita, is it gonna negatively affect anybody else on Prospect? I mean, are there a lot of cars that park on there that this could be a concern to others?
I don't think it would be a concern. This is going down further down by, it's the block of Van Buren Street going down to, I'm sorry, not Van Buren, Franklin, going down to St. James. So, not a whole lot of cars on that street. But I think there's more than one person complaining though about getting multiple tickets for not getting their car over on time.
Okay.
So I don't think it would be any negative impacts.
And
Getting tickets.
say it
I'm
again.
just saying, I'm saying I can sympathize with getting tickets when I was
Right.
like over things, that's early.
So it's 8 a.m. They've been saying, Rita, that they've been getting tickets around that early in
Yeah.
the morning? All right, because
Yeah.
it's over. So why was 10 a.m.? Was that a discussion or was it? And not 9
That
a.m.?
was the time that they asked for, thinking that would be a better time and enough time for them to then switch their vehicles over.
Okay. I mean, if DPW doesn't seem to have a concern on that particular section of the street, and again, I understand their concerns if we start doing this citywide, and then, DPW is not gonna be able to get much done in those timeframes, but I don't see any concerns. Any other questions?
No, I mean, my concern was, the ramifications for these guys, but if they're in agreement that, that's in that particular street, in that particular area, it's not gonna be a problem, then I don't have a problem with it. I'm just curious of the potential snowball effect that this will cause.
For other people?
For other people in other wards, it's like, okay, well,
Everybody picks.
why'd you do that? I want 11 o'clock, I want this, and I think, the potential for that snowball effect is there, and I think eventually that will cause a citywide mandate, like this is what time the cars are gonna have to be on the other side of the road, no ifs, ands, or buts, because again, your hours are limited. So if everywhere is 10 o'clock, then.
So if it does go citywide, that's the initial cost of changing every sign in the city.
Sure.
But
I mean,
also street cleaning would be an issue.
Yeah, I mean, in this particular incident, it's like I said, I'm deferring to you guys are the experts. If you say right now it's not gonna be a problem, cool. As far as this particular incident issue, I'm good.
Yeah.
But again, I want to voice my concern of the snowball effect that's potentially going to happen.
And hopefully it does.
Should it happen? I mean, we're at an if right now, right? So,
Right?
yeah.
Barbara, any questions?
I
Discussion?
think that if it's we're allowed to do a one-time situation. And just note that we don't wanna, it's not a citywide thing at this point, so. It's an isolated case, I'm fine with it.
I don't have any issue.
Michelle?
Hi, I'm good with it.
Okay. So I'm just gonna refer to C attached here because I'm not sure if this has to be a code or anything like that, or do I just write and,
It would have to be changed in the code, yeah.
yeah, I don't have that code, the code or anything here right now. The actual code number doesn't state on that, it says requesting and change it from 8 AM to 10 AM. So how do I rate that up then?
You could probably just say change it, have it reflect in the city code,
Okay.
noted time on Prospect Street. Is it between a certain area on Prospect, Rita, or is it,
Yeah,
where would it, be? Can you give like the exact?
I can get that information for you, but then does that delay this vote then?
Yeah, because, yeah, we would have to do that, and then that means it's gonna go back to next month. Is it Prospect Street to what, Rita? Is that what we're saying? Is it Van Buren to Prospect or to St. James? Is that what you
It's
said?
from Franklin. It's the location from Franklin to St. James Street. It's that area.
Would that be enough to?
Not, you know what? I'm just thinking of the streets again. It's Liberty to St. James. It doesn't come that far down to Franklin. So Liberty on the corner of, the library,
So Prospect,
and then down.
Prospect Street between Liberty and St. James?
Correct.
Change the time of the alternate side from 8 AM to 10 AM.
Correct.
Good enough for your guys to make that change and reflect in the city.
From 8 AM to 10
At 10 AM.
Yeah, 10 a.m.
From.
Not 10 p.m.
Yeah, from Liberty Street
To St. James.
to St. James Street. Okay,
And we should be okay with not, because I don't have my computer, know what part of the code it is.
okay. So just change alternate side time from 8 AM to 10 AM from Liberty Street to St. James Street. And it says see attached. Any more discussion? Can I have a motion? For a second? All in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay, great. Now, we still haven't passed that, right?
We have to use the sign.
Thank you.
Still gives permission.
Michelle, do you give me permission to sign, or do you want to come in?
You've got it. Thanks.
Okay.
1L.
All right. Oh, man, I gotta sign it.
I think she puts a heart over her eyes.
Nah.
Let's make sure I get that. All right, that's one down. The next thing on the agenda is, from me, stop sign requests, and after having a discussion with, city engineer, I'm just gonna table this until we can get some more data and information on Grantham Street, discussion about, possible, stop signage on Grantham and Hinsdale, Grantham and Plainfield Street. So I'm just gonna table that as of right now and bring it back up hopefully for next month, okay? So the third thing on the agenda then is Broadway cycle track, and Alderman Hirsch.
Thank you, Chairman Davis. So this is the communication was actually sent to the whole committee, but regarding the Broadway bike lane. So as the constituent lives in Ward 9, I submitted it officially to President Shaw. So the cycling community, the bike community is not feeling entirely safe and was looking to have these removable bollards installed for the summer months on Broadway to create more safety and separation between the parked cars and the bike lane.
Okay. All right. So I'll just read this communication here in case everybody didn't see. In particular, I'd like to point to a consistent opinion in the BFK FB discussion, need for removable bollards between the cycle track and the parking lane on Broadway. I am aware that bollards were discussed during the project development ruled out because of snow plowing needs. However, I do not know of the option of a removable bollards had been discussed. I respectfully request that the committee review the matter according to common council policy for proposed traffic and parking control devices, which says that the city engineer perform an engineering analysis for proposed installation, modification, removal of traffic and parking control devices. A, the engineering analysis must conform to the requirements of the manual of uniform traffic control devices. Oh, that was that. So I asked the city engineer and DPW to be here to weigh in on this matter. And so I'll pass it on to the city engineer first and John Schulteis to weigh in.
Tony, do you mind if I
Yep.
just say, there is no legislation behind this. It's not like a stop sign that needs to be in the code. So really this committee can say, let's recommend this to the mayor and the staff. And then we could send it to finance to fund it. But I just wanted to, before the conversation starts, just kind of see where it goes. It's not something that we could put in the code or anything like that. It would just be if this committee decides that they want to make a recommendation.
Correct.
So I just
And
wondering,
then we would pass on the finance because it's gonna be.
it's a cost.
It's cost. So that, we're here to have discussion about that. So, John, if you wanna.
Okay, so I did review the request in some detail and compare it with the extensive design effort that went into Broadway, which we all see the results of, although it's continue to say the Broadway project is not 100% complete and that we're still lacking some signal equipment. We do expect to get that in the month of June. That being said, the current request for the bollards were, I like the name flexible delineator, and I think Ed brought kind of a sample of what these would be, was something that was looked at during the design of Broadway, specifically the cycle track. So the feature, the cycle track that, as you see it, is what's known as a protected bike facility, in that the cycle track is separated from the car lane by the lane of parked cars. Okay, so I think one of the considerations during design, really came down to the maintenance efforts. So I know Ed, when I'm done speaking, could talk a little bit about the experience we have in Kingston with the flexible delineators from a maintenance point of view. But there was nothing in the design that required those. And so that's the reason why they're not there today. I know that, so that's, we talked, I guess, about, on my end, the three E's of the roadway, the engineering, with the results of which we can see education and enforcement. So I think one of the frustrating things that people on bicycles are responding to are cars parking in the cycle track, which to me, even with the delineators installed, could continue to be a problem, depending on how closely we space them. I think only education and ultimately enforcement is going to stop that behavior of parking in the cycle track. The Common Council did, at some point in the last 1 to 2 years, specifically spell out that parking in bicycle facilities is prohibited in the city. So that is already a violation. Additional enforcement and education around that effort could be done. I am aware other city staff are running the road safety education program the Common Council recently authorized. And one aspect of that is going to be no parking in bicycle facilities, including Broadway, including Hurley Ave, and the others as they develop around the city. So in my opinion, the design, that was ultimately constructed did not require the delineators. And, Ed, if you want to speak a little bit about the maintenance reasons associated with that, the maintenance experience we've had elsewhere in the city with this type of product, and then if you have questions for me or for Ed, just let me know.
So before we go there, first and foremost, are we talking about just visual separation, or are we talking about a more structural bollard system that is going to keep vehicles out of that area?
So you mean like how close are they? Because if they're,
Well, I mean, are we talking about a rigid type, or, so right now, what we have, this is an example of what's on Greenkill Avenue. And all it is a visual barrier made out of plastic that, is flexible. It bends very easily. And as you can see, this has a nice kink in it down here where it mounts into the street. They get run over continuously. And out of all of them that were installed on Greenkill Avenue, there's currently just one left standing because they've all been run over, broken off, taken down. So from a standpoint of safety, and again, I don't know what we're looking to accomplish here. Are we looking at something to keep vehicles out of the lane that's going to prevent somebody from crashing into it? Or just a visual reference to say, there's a bike lane, I probably shouldn't drive in there. So do we have any input on that? Michelle?
I mean, again, this bill, this says need for removing bollards between the second track and the parking lane on Broadway. And Michelle?
Hi, thank you, Chairman Davis. Thank you, John, Ed. So my understanding is that there is a request for actual bollards and more of protective, not just visual. I know that we're, talking about engineering, enforcement, education, but we have bike lanes that people are feeling are very narrow and they're feeling unsafe, and that the buffer is also very narrow between the cars and the bike track. So we're going to have a wasted project if cyclists are too nervous to use the bike lane, and businesses are going to be hurt if we have consumers that are afraid to park because they're afraid of hitting a cyclist. So I think that we have to find a balance between maintenance of the bike lane and creating, a safety buffer so that it can be used in the most safe manner.
Anybody
So
else?
my understanding is the bollards were eliminated from the design as well because of plowing. And now we're also talking about the street sweeper being an issue.
Currently, we do not have a unit that will fit within that bike lane if bollards are installed.
Okay. So I just actually, to back up a second, Ed, have we received our new sweeper?
We have.
Okay.
So the sweeper, from when the conversation I had with Ed, would not fit down there if we have rigid or permanent bollards down there.
Right. And so we've purchased we are trying to purchase, right? There's been a supply chain issue, snow removal equipment that fits in the bike lanes. Yes.
We currently have skid steers and small snow blowers that could be utilized in there, but the plowing is a part of another issue because most of the plows are wider than the bike lane.
Right, because I kind of remember from the capital plan discussion that we're looking at equipment that would be specific to the bike lanes.
Well, it was not necessarily specific to the bike lane, but to enhance our abilities throughout the city.
Okay, so is there a possibility of the city acquiring a sweeper that's smaller that could accommodate the bike lane with bollards?
Yes, they are available at smaller sizes, absolutely, yes.
do you have an idea of cost?
The last time I checked, because I think I had it on my capital plan two years or a year and a half ago prior, when COVID came about, we had to start removing some items. I had a smaller sweeper that I believe at the time was about $90,000. So I would assume that's well over 100 at this point.
Okay. Are there any streets in Kingston where our sweeper doesn't fit, that we aren't able to use the larger sweeper?
Not too much. At the time, it was mainly because of doing the other bike trails, downtown and throughout. Where our current unit would not work well.
So the sweeper, you done, Michelle? I'm sorry.
Yeah, and then what would the cost be for bollards that could be used for, even just at least in the summer?
John?
I don't know, I think it was looked at, there would be something like between $150 and $200, delineators. I don't know the per unit cost on this.
Andrew?
So what I hear about the safety issues from cyclists is not so much that cars are parking in there, although I have definitely seen cars parked in the bike lanes, but when the passenger door opens,
Yeah,
that is a concern. Now,
Right.
if I saw one of those, the bollards, I would probably park, if I have a passenger in my car, I'd park someplace where the door would swing open without hitting the bollard. So
Right.
would that solve that issue or help that issue
Well-
at all, or is?
just to back up a little bit to what the design, the typical section for Broadway is, when we designed the project, we held the curb lines generally from existing, so that fixed the width. So the cycle track itself is 8 feet wide. Then between that and the parked vehicles is a striped area that's 2 feet wide. Then the parking spaces, I believe, are 7 or 7.5 feet wide. So that's the basic thing. Now the issue you're describing is what's called dooring. It's a risk, it's a danger to cyclists. But one advantage, if you think about a bicycle lane where the parked car is at the curb, then the bicycle lane, those are at a higher risk for dooring than what we have on Broadway, because the parked car and the bicycle are in the same direction. So as a driver in that car getting out, your normal impulse is to just open your door without looking behind your shoulder, and that's where a lot of dooring injuries and crashes happen. That, on Broadway, whether if you're on the passenger side of the vehicle opening your door, that door is opening into the lane of the cyclist coming towards you.
Are there,
So
I haven't ridden my bike yet, it's too cold for me on Broadway, but are there arrows painted on the lanes to show which way to go?
There's a double yellow line down the center of the cycle track. The cycle track is
So, I'm sorry. So the lane closest to the possible door has an arrow that points going
there's a
towards
visual.
the car.
Yeah,
Yes.
so if you're on the passenger side of a car, parked on that side of Broadway, and you open your door, you have a visual of oncoming cyclists.
Okay.
Now, that doesn't account for one moving opposite you, but that should be 4 to 5 feet away, given the 2 foot buffer plus 4 foot to the yellow line down the center of the cycle track. That's not going to handle every situation of cyclists being on the quote wrong side of the cycle track, but it does reduce the likelihood of dooring.
I had this question from conversation we had. There's another cost factor in here. If we do put these bollards in, removable, and that now when trash pick up, someone's got to get out and pick up all these bollards, right? Remove them
Well,
and then put them back.
Right, not so much with the trash, but with the snow plow, the snow removal. So there's a labor cost to that, to have these removed, because winter time, they would either be removed permanently, which would be the best route for the winter. But if not, if they need to stay in, these would be removed, then a cap then goes into place where this was to keep the snow and debris out of the socket that this sits into. So every time you move them, you gotta, unscrew, remove these, put the caps on.
Now, what do the plow trucks do to the caps?
These set flush mostly.
Okay.
So that's how they're supposed to work, so you can glide over them, but then I've also seen issues where ice gets around these and pops them or raises them enough for the plow to lift them and take them off. So,
I just don't agree with this. I'm sorry, we've taken, like you said, we have the buffer, we have 8 foot wide, we have 2 bike lanes. You know, if you look down Hurley Avenue, because when I used to live at Stony Run, I used to ride my bike up and down Hurley Avenue, and that's just a small little sliver of a bike lane that you have, and there are parked cars that you have to go around and you have to navigate that. There's a common sense human element to this that people need to have. You know, there was a meeting last week, I think, that I was a part of where we were talking about other things for bicyclists. And as someone who takes Broadway every day, I've been almost hit by more bikes not paying attention to the rules and regulations of the road than the other way around. So, I mean, to spend more money, to spend more man hours on DPW putting these things up and taking these off for, you know, a very rare circumstance where, you know, human elements and human factors should, you know, take place in this. As you guys said earlier, the blind from the parking, for someone opening up their door, it wouldn't be wide enough for them to hit. And then oncoming cars, you're obviously gonna see, okay, there's a cyclist coming, so I'm not gonna just swing my door open right now. And if we look at Manhattan, you know what I mean? Like they're on some of their roads, they don't even have shared or, you know, dedicated bike lanes. It's a free for all down the road. And, you know, with the amount of money that we spent already on this project and with all the other things factored into this, I just, all around, I don't see a need for it.
Anybody else? Michelle?
I'm sorry, I think that the bike lanes are, they're very narrow. My understanding is we're at the minimum. I've been to many other cities, that the bike lanes, you know, are set up in the same way that ours are, but they are much wider. The buffer is, you know, up to 3 feet. So saving money and not, you know, creating more safety, I don't know if that's really the right, you know, way to go. We have people not wanting to use the lanes. We have people that don't want to park. What's the point of having, you know, this streetscape and these bike lanes? So I just think that we really, I don't know, I would like for the committee to, you know, consider, you know, having engineering and DPW put some costs together and come back and present it to us.
Anything else, Michelle?
No, that's it.
Rita?
Thank you, Tony. So could I ask John and Ed, is there, if you're concerned with putting the bollards up, is there any other thing that we can do to try to make it more safe? I do agree with Michelle in that the bike lanes are narrow and it's scary. You know, I see cars riding into that lane all the time. And, you know, I also, you know, if we lived in a perfect world, I would go along with Michael, but I just don't see, I think the value of people's lives are more important than how much it's going to cost to make it safe, you know? But with that said, though, is there any other measures that we can do in an alternative to putting the bollards up that would help with safety measures?
I think it's down to the enforcement and the education aspect of it.
Do you happen to know, you mentioned the traffic safety campaign that we funded probably 8 months ago at this point? And Rita and I were actually talking about it this morning, and I haven't reached out, it's on my list to reach out to the mayor about where
Yeah,
that
sure.
is, do you know?
I'm not managing it, but I'm copied on, I'm involved in it. I've seen some messaging actually just this morning that's being developed, for print, for radio, for, social media. So it's advancing. I know there is I think Emily Flynn is managing it in health and wellness, and she's making good progress.
Oh, so I'll reach
Yeah.
out to her then, to see, but.
My question, are you done, Rita? I'm sorry.
Yes.
All right, my question is there federal state mandates on the design that we have now? Was there any federal state that said that we had to have the bollards? I'm assuming not.
There was not.
All right, and I had another question mark here, Green County, so you're saying all those bollards are down. And I know we had that one tragic accident there earlier that, and are cars parking in the bike lane on Green County Avenue too, you say?
I have seen cars in,
All right.
in the bike lane.
And the other question, John, you mentioned, you said we'd be at like 120 bollards that were needed for Broadway?
I'm going from memory because we did have an idea of how many, just per foot. I think they were spaced 25 to 40 feet roughly.
All right.
And you just do the math over that 3,000 feet, something.
Because I haven't been on, I've been on Broadway or not, at the times I've been on Broadway, I haven't seen a car. So there actually, it's parking spots for cars, like we're seeing cars are parking right in the bike lane.
It's something less, I think the first couple of months it was more so, every time.
But there's those few who like to frequent some of the businesses on Broadway.
Yeah, you still see it, it was just like at the beginning, it was more so, I think it's calmed down.
I would just, again, I'm just saying, I would like to see what it would be, the cost for 120 ballots. I'm not, this source I have it.
Yeah.
For, to say, if we could get that.
Sure.
Like what it would cost for
We
those
can get that for you.
Because it looks like,
Right.
what I'm seeing here in this conversation, and it looks like it's more of probably a problem in the summertime, summertime, where cars parked. And if we could put these removable bollards there, just to give something and have them there, and then be able to remove them more in the wintertime, and where the snow's coming up, and it's less frequently gonna be bicyclists during that time. I would like to just see what the numbers are or something like that before. And, I would just say no to this or yes to this. I would just like to see that. That's something we can get.
Yep.
All right. And Naeem and then Andrew.
I would agree that I would like to see the numbers, and like what the actual plan could look like. I think there is some bicycle anxiety. I've seen it on Facebook and all these other places. I've had people come in that haven't been here or moved out of Kingston and come back, and it's like, what's going on? Like, there's just the anxiety around it. So I think if we didn't try to do something, it would be like the underlying would be like, you don't care kind of thing. So I think trying is always best to just put it out there and see what we can do. But financials, I understand, all of that, and I also understand the labor. Those are big things to consider, but I think we should draft a plan to see if this is doable. Especially if they're gonna be removed. Summer is what, 3 months, 2 months? I don't know what the definition would be of like when we do take it out, but I don't think it would be that much if it was a limited time.
Andrew and then Barbara.
And John, you may not want to be comfortable answering this question, so I completely understand that, but has there been any conversations with the mayor about this? Because again, we can't legislate that these get installed. This is a design that, the mayor has to task you guys to do. We could fund it, but the money could then just sit there. So, has anybody from the council I don't know if you've talked to the mayor about it, if would consider this, or you want me to stop asking and just reach out?
As you say, this is not gonna result in legislation, but I feel, you know, there's staff areas of responsibility and you know, control, which, you know, these features primarily come down to Ed and his department, because each time one falls over or gets broken, or then seasonally, you know, twice a year, it's him and his workload, and, you know, you know, any labor that he's putting into that is labor that can't be doing something else for the city. So you know, I think it's that from the mayor's point of view, you know, he signed the plans for Broadway as you see it, without the bollards. So, you know,
Is there a way to possibly get through this season and see where we go and then address it for the upcoming?
Well, I mean, I would love to, like, I would feel more comfortable if the education plan was moving forward. You know, because if that's not gonna happen until the fall, I mean, we funded it months ago, and I know things take time, I'm not faulting Emily or anybody, but, you know, that would have been really nice before the board season,
Just coming.
that happens.
Right.
And I would feel a lot more comfortable if that E was
Yes.
that ball was rolling with that E. But, so I'll reach out to Emily, and I can, if everybody, I'll let you know, and see if I could get an update from the committee on the education part of it.
Yeah, and again, I don't know where, we leave right with the other part piece of that, the other E, enforcement.
And
I mean, again, if people are calling, they see a car on there and they call and, you know, where's the enforcement at to say you can't do this? The ticket, I mean, I don't know where that is.
Well, and that's what I was getting at. I think I'm sorry, Barbara.
Yeah, yes, somewhere.
So yeah, I used to be an avid cyclist. Those lanes are narrow. I would, you know, when I'm driving by a cyclist, I do give a wide berth because I was an avid cyclist and not so much anymore. So that's one issue. The bollards, though, I would like to see the costs for them. I would like to see maybe seasonal installation, possibly, just to know what the figures are, not that we need to act on it right away, because I think we're still in that educational period. It's sort of like the just common sense period is starting to sink in about where you park, where you don't. It takes time, just like we were all flipping out when we first had to go around that circle, you know?
I
And
was
then,
not.
huh? Well, I'm still flipping out, so anyhow,
I only flipped out when I saw somebody going the wrong way.
no,
Looking at
there were
me.
big holes in the ground, you know, you were gonna go off if you didn't catch it right, you know, you're not like a bird in flight, you know, going with it. So I just like to see the costs, and I'm not being funny, but sort of, what other colors do they come in? Besides the white, because I don't know if I take the white that seriously, you know what I mean, visually,
well, I can answer that, yeah, they would have to be white.
they would have to be,
Yes.
because of traffic
Well,
codes.
just white paint or any white marker has the meaning of traffic going in the same direction.
All right, oh
you
wow,
know, So,
so much for
you
my
know,
decor. And then the other thing is, are we talking about the circle at all? Because that is part of, I find that very scary for cyclists and pedestrians. I think the other circle is safer for them. This is still pretty car-centric, because people are just trying to figure out how to get through there the fastest. And I see pedestrians hanging out there, kind of, they go wait for an hour to try to get across that, to get attention or people to say, oh, there's a pedestrian. Because everybody's, and my brother doesn't ride his bike into town anymore. He finds it unsafe. He used to find it safer with his bike because there used to be signals, you know? So I just want to say that that's the flow onto Broadway and the flow off. And I think, I don't have more feedback than him, but I'm witnessing it myself. If I were a cyclist, I would dismount and take my sweet time trying to get cross through there. There's no,
You have to go.
it is not safe.
Yeah, there's no bike
But
lane.
there are pedestrian crossings.
So bollards wouldn't even be an issue, we couldn't, for the circle, that would, yeah.
There's no way to, I don't know how people navigate.
It's just like every other highway within the state or country. You have to ride with traffic, you have to follow the rules of the traffic.
Right in the middle of town.
And again, like, it's not just financial that I'm looking at this, but it is like the education and the enforcement and the common sense. Are the individual bike lanes narrow? Perhaps, but they're still double laned wide. And, you know, granted, it's not summertime yet, but I have yet to see two cyclists going in opposite directions along, you know, at the time that I've been there. And I think we're just putting the cart way ahead of the horse in this situation here. You know, I'm fine with possibly tabling this to see, you know, what the financial aspects of things are, but you know, I'm sorry, I think there has to just be a common sense aspect of this. And yeah, if I'm a daily parker in that area and I get, you know, $150 ticket, okay, well, next time I'm gonna park the way I'm supposed to park. And, you know, again, where does it end? So, okay, we're gonna put bollards on Broadway. Well, what about Early Avenue? What about, you know, Ulster Avenue? There's a ton of roads out there that don't have bike lanes at all, that we've managed for decades or hundreds of years to not have an issue. But now all of a sudden we have this brand new project with 2 dedicated bike lanes, a gap, a parking lane, and then the basic traffic. You know, that's my point. Like, at some point, people have to be accountable for their own actions.
Michelle, the back front.
Well, I'm not suggesting that anything be decided tonight. I mean, this is a working conversation and, you know, beginning to gather information and to make, you know, an educated best decision based on, you know, needs of financial needs of the safety for the public and, you know, our maintenance crews. So we're not going to come up with, you know, a perfect solution in one night. It's, you know, an exploration that we really, I think we should need to begin.
Can we get, when you work on the costs, can you also talk about, I guess it's more, like, the cost of maintenance, if there needs to be a sweeper, the cost of installation, like, the cost of everything, so we have the full picture? And maybe just,
Yeah, I'll get the.
you know, pause this conversation
Right.
and do that first, and maybe, I don't know, if Michelle, you want to do it, talk to the mayor, see how he
Sure.
feels, if one of you talk to the mayor about it, and then I'll reach out to Emily Flynn and see if we can see the status of that. Does that sound like a plan?
Yes, thank you.
I just wanted, Barbara, you had one more question, you had.
I was gonna suggest what President Shaw just said.
And Michelle, you want to reach out to the mayor or do you want me?
Yeah, I have a time set up with him already, so.
Okay, thank you.
I can
Yeah.
reach out to Emily Flynn, because I am on the Lidwell Kingston, and she's a constituent of mine, and I know her, unless you know her very well. Emily?
We could figure that out, I mean.
Okay, fully will.
Whatever you want to do, it's fine.
All right, so it's like right now, we're just gonna table this until we can get some more data and information until next month?
Yeah.
Good. Yeah,
Did you have a compliance question also?
yeah, what would be a compliance question? According to you.
According to your email?
What code are you speaking in?
No, compliance.
Oh,
Or.
I was talking to
Well, you mean about with bollards?
Well, just in general of how it's going with the market areas.
yes, again, we had a conversation, I'm getting old and listen, how's it going on there with the clients?
So we've been, since we've been doing the garbage pickup on Tuesdays,
Correct.
the parking enforcement works with us every other week, not on a weekly basis. And we've been out there 5 times with parking enforcement since that went into effect. It's averaging 20 tickets per occurrence.
Now, this 20 tickets is for not parking on the opposite side of the street, right? Or, oh, no, that's right, remove cars being off the street.
In order to do the maintenance and the garbage.
That's correct.
is
So you're
that
right.
about the city or
That's
just on
on
Broadway?
Average 20 tickets every other week.
Well, that's what they're doing, they're working with us every other week. So if they were with us every week, there would be 20 tickets a week.
This may be, do they know if it's the same offenders?
It is mostly, well, there is a lot of the same offenders. We haven't narrowed down, but the biggest issue, I think, is kind of between O'Neill and Elmendorf Street. And we had a discussion today about possibly putting an additional sign up in that area in Spanish, because there might be a language barrier. So we're looking into doing something like that to try to help with that.
So and do we notice that where this is at? Well, I don't know if you can answer this question. Do they have off-street parking, or we really don't know?
Well, surprisingly, there is some off-street parking, and at each intersection they can park. And there are a couple of parking lots there, but they choose to not do that, so.
Are the tickets in English and Spanish or just English?
I don't know. That's market enforcement.
Yeah.
So you don't get many parking tickets yourself?
No.
I mean, again, that's being proactive, I guess, on this, in regard to if that's an area that maybe more Spanish speaking, they might not know, might not be able to read the signage there.
Or the tickets?
Or the tickets themselves too, and I don't know if that's something that has to be, obviously has to come through committee, right? To be able to request to have that up.
The sign for,
It's just an additional to the sign that's currently
Yeah,
there.
I
And
thought
have a small sign under the current one that's there, just to.
you could just do that. You
Okay.
don't need legislation for that.
Michelle?
Yeah, maybe, somebody can put something up on the city website that's bilingual and that then older people can share, just to get the word out to the Latinx community, and maybe, something on La Vaz, on Radio Kingston, just a little bit of a, public safety or public, parking campaign. So just to get the word out, education.
Yes. And that particular location or whatever, on Broadway, all the way. Barbara?
I noticed, I had called the police department because there was a car parked across the street at the tennis courts. It was like a little gravel. It had been there for a while. I asked for it to be towed. Tires were deflated. I went over, there was this bright orange card. And I thought it was like a notice for it to be towed, like here's the car to tow. But no, it was this little courtesy card from the police department saying, this is just a friendly warning that if your car, please pay attention to the situation. And it was just, so I was wondering if there was some sort of something to stick on the windshield, not a permanent sticker like sometimes we see, or a boot or something, but just some sort of, and it could be in English, Spanish, whatever, that's put under the windshield wiper on the windshield itself. So the person sees it and they go, oh, I didn't get a ticket, or they might get a ticket, but,
I know they do
So we
something similar.
do
like that in
warnings.
cities.
We do warnings. Does that look different? I have never,
Well, they all go in the same envelope.
but it's,
Oh,
so
so it
it's
is.
the orange envelope with either a warning in it
No.
or an actual ticket, but it's probably all in English. That might be something that we want to talk to John too. It's his department, that maybe we should have Spanish.
If we don't have Spanish yet. All right.
All right, but we typically, we go and as we're going up through that area, the parking enforcement will blow the horn, have all the lights going, walk into the businesses to say, hey, guys, time to move, and some of them do, some of them don't. So.
All right. Well, so Michelle's gonna speak to the mayor, and we're gonna reach out to Emily, I believe, and where the education is going. I can reach out to John too to talk to him to see if these tickets are in English and Spanish. And so, yes, and Barbara.
how does it work? Like, I've heard tell of like somebody who has $500 worth of tickets. Like, how do you know that a certain individual is there like can there be a computer run made where it's like, you know how many tickets a particular, person has received? And then you know that's a frequent flyer of some kind and they happen to live,
Massive databases.
Yeah, but that's,
It's all traffic.
That's enforcement.
Traffic works, so
That's
that's all.
All that digital stuff that they do, the second they type the ticket up, it gets put into a big database and they have, Barber Hill has 20 parking on pavement tickets. You know what I mean? Like they have access to all that.
Yeah, we don't, but they do.
Mhm.
DPW does it, but I'm assuming that parking enforcement does.
right, so that's not of use to know that, or that's not,
After a certain amount, and whether they pay their tickets or not, then they would get booted after a certain quantity. So they all have to keep track of it.
Yeah, if they're not paid.
just leave it alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so it was good discussion on this, and we're gonna table it and come back next month and hopefully have some more information on this. And then we can decide where we wanna go on this, okay?
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. And next item, the last item on new business is a handicap parking sticker at 16 Clinton Avenue. Alderwoman Worthington.
Yep, that's me. First of all, just want to make sure that, John, you guys received the information that I sent in with regard to the permit number.
You have that, John?
Yes?
Yeah, no objections.
No objections. Yeah.
Okay, so that's just a constituent wanting a handicap parking sign in front of her residence,
Did you have?
16 Clinton Avenue.
I never received a copy of that parking permit, which has to go with the resolution, right? Or with the committee report?
I'll check it when I go home. I didn't bring my computer tonight, so I'll.
So, yeah, if you could just get that, I get a copy of that before common council, there's no big
Yeah,
deal. I just need to add that with this resolution.
But you could write the resolution
yeah.
with 16 or whatever, 16, and then we'll have the permit
Alright.
attached.
So can I, with that said, can I ask another question then, just for procedurally? So when we get requests for handicap parking signs, should we send in all of the information to you, John, and to the chair?
No, you should
Or is
send
that
it-
something that, Andrea, that you transfer?
You should send it to me, and you could copy John on it, or I'll send it to John. So
Okay,
definitely send anything like that to me. Because
Okay.
then I will make sure it gets assigned to committee, and then I'll make sure, but you could copy Tony, you could copy John, you could copy Elisa on it. If you don't, I'll
Right.
notice it and then make sure it goes out, but it does have to come to me to assign it. And you would
Right.
need, the permit number and then obviously the address.
right,
And
right.
Henry typically doesn't object unless there's like a no parking thing, so it's just for handicap signage,
Right.
so it's usually an easy
Right.
thing. So, yeah, if you get that, make sure it sends to me, I can make sure it gets to anybody else.
Okay, thank you.
So I'll check if I don't have the permit number in an email, I'll reach back around to read it. I think she sent it, I just.
All right, so this is a copy, this it goes with that.
Yeah, and Andrea, if you don't have the information, just let me know. I'll resend everything to you.
All
Okay,
right, so this is just to add handicap parking sign at 16 Clinton Avenue. Any discussion? Motion? Mike Oliveri, second. Naeem Muhammad, all in favor? Everybody? Michelle, sign your name again?
Go right ahead. Thank
Never
you.
gonna be the same anyway, but I never do my handicap. Thing is the same. I don't even think I don't need that, I just need that parking permit when it comes. All right, and now we're on to old business. Old business. Let's see, it's old. And Golden Hill update. And City Engineer John Schulteis, do you have any updates on Golden Hill?
Yes, I can give you an update. In your agenda package would be a letter from March from our consultant to the developer or really it's addressed to us, but it's commenting on the developer's traffic study. It asked some questions. Since that time, the developer did provide some minor revisions, and there's now a April letter identifying just a few outstanding items. But I think the question everybody wants to know, two questions probably, is to do with the gate at the end of Golden Hill Drive where it meets Glen Street. And the other issue is the traffic signal or other devices on Route 32. So I'll give you a little update on each of those. As far as the gate, I've been working with Ulster County on this, and the latest I heard as of yesterday is that the staff, Ulster County, are working out an agreement to which the nursing home may have to be a party to allow the installation of the gate. But the indications are that that's going to be possible. So if that's done, there will be an emergency only gate at the end of Glen Street, and ordinary traffic from the nursing home and all the facilities on Golden Hill would have to go to Route 32. So related to that, then, is the traffic controls, specifically a signal there at Golden Hill. So we and DPI, our consultant that's working with planning staff, believe that a signal could be warranted there, which is once the 164 units are added. So we're working on that, basically a finding of that, which would help inform how the developer there is going to proceed. In the case of that signal, it could be in the form of some cost sharing agreement. This is all, to be determined. So there's movement on this project. I know Golden Hill's working on their site plan approval for their 164 units. So these things that I've talked about, the gate and the improvements at Route 32, could be conditions of that site plan approval. So that's sort of an update of what's happening there.
Any questions before I go?
I kind of want to reiterate, as someone who is coming off Golden Hill Drive 5 days, 5 days a week, multiple times as I go home for lunch, like, there needs to be a traffic safety device at Route 32. I mean, like you said, we have professional bus drivers who are coming in and out of there, and all of us have to slam on our brakes because the car's flying up 32. And I'm just glad to see that the consultant kind of is agreeing with us and saying, hey, listen, And I've had a constituent reach out to me several times
Right.
About the gate, and so I'm glad that is also being along with this process. So thank you.
Barbara?
Yeah, thanks for the update, because I scoured this letter again today and I was going, it's not in there what I want to see. And so those are the two things, the gate and the traffic signal. I was there yesterday, needed traffic signal. But then when I was looking at this, I'm going, oh, shoot, because what I was hearing before was that to have a traffic signal there, you get rear end collision, rear ending, because there's not enough, people would come around a corner and then they wouldn't know there's a traffic signal, and there'd be cars, at the signal, and then boom. And I was like, well, that doesn't make sense to me. There's got to be a way to do warnings before it. But then when I saw this, that there was a 275-foot sight distance, but it really is only 233, I was like, oh no, even less likely we'll be able to have a traffic signal. But I'm glad that it's looking like there will be one, because that's a big development to be up there. And not feeling unsafe already, in that area, and yeah, so enough said. It's just like, it's a no-brainer, actually, to have to go through all these traffic studies. But we do.
Any other questions?
Not a
Michelle?
question. I just want to, just say thank you for giving us this update. And I think it's really in the public's best interest and the future residents' best interest.
And my question is, so as it's moving along, the developer would have to sign off on these things here and to having the gate is for emergencies. Do they have to agree, or is this between the city and county?
In the case of the gate, that's unrelated, it's unrelated to the developer, Penrose, and the housing. That's a matter really between the county, the city, and the nursing home, because it's a little complicated to get into, but the county granted an easement to the nursing home, which in the language of that easement says there can be no barrier or gate erected. So now the nursing home has to agree to modify the rights that the county granted them. That's my indications in talking to the county staff, however, is that at least on a preliminary basis, the nursing home does not object to that change if the gate can be controlled in such a way that when a siren is detected, that's a technology solution.
And now in regard to the traffic signal on Route 32, the Boulevard Route 32, that is something that the developer has to sign off on, or we're still in the discussion stages?
I think Sue Cahill in planning could speak more specifically to the mechanism that could require that. I envision it as, yes, some combination of developer and county would install that, and then it would become a city-owned signal for maintenance.
Go on.
Because it's funny because it's county, city, and state, because it's state road.
Well, it has a state route number, however, that's a city-maintained street.
Okay.
It's just, the only thing the state does is assign the number.
Okay.
All right.
Not only this, so there, in this one part of the letter, it says, other options should be considered to improve
Yeah.
sites,
Yep.
options could include traffic calming measures, that speed feedback sign.
Right.
Which I would like to see in addition to the signal, to make sure people know there's a signal coming and they're slowing down, because I know for myself even,
Right.
I'm chomping at the bit. You're coming along 32 and then it's making
Right.
you slow down to 30, but you're really
Right.
still going 45. So it takes you a while to kind of slow down. So the calming measures, as well as those other improvements, like the geometric improvements, well, I guess that's coming down the hill, right? Cutting the hill down a bit so that you can see better.
That would be another
That's also
possibility, yes, but the signal warrant analysis takes into account a total of 8 warrants, and if a given location meets one or more of the warrants, it can be considered for signal. It's not automatically going to say, okay, we will need a signal. So there's volume levels, which obviously would go up with development. There's crash history, which, actually the location does not have a crash history of what's called correctable crashes. So there are things like vehicle versus animal crashes, but the signal would not have.
It's close calls.
Yeah. So part of what we're looking for is looking at is trying to be proactive. The character of the area is going to change with this development. There'll be more people looking to in and out of there compared to what it is now.
Well, It's good to know that there's the options, I feel like there.
I'm just, yeah, I just would like, I thank you, John, for this update on this, to the committee and then hopefully the whole common council. I'd just like to see us get more update as this is moving on and to see exactly where this traffic signal's going. And, so we're all kept in a loop. And, this has been a major issue and for some time now in that area. And, like I said, we're gonna have that new development here. We need to be making sure that we're up to date on what's going on. So, thank you, though.
Thank you.
Any other questions for John? For Ed? For the committee? I don't see any other thing on old business or anything else on our agenda. So I have a motion to adjourn at 7:47. Motion.
Motion.
Second. Michelle Hurst, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, we'll see you at the next special common council
No comments.
finance.
Special
Finance meeting before on May the 2nd, and then caucus on May the 2nd. Thank you so much.
And the artist.
Thank you, guys. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.